We are delighted to launch a new and expanded version of GARI, WFW's Global Aviation Resource Index. GARI is an online tool which scores and allows users to compare aircraft-related repossession rights, deregistration rights and restructuring procedures in 100 or more jurisdictions around the world. GARI will assist with planning new aircraft and engine finance and leasing transactions, auditing jurisdictional risk across a portfolio, dealing with disputes and repossessions, and analysing restructuring procedures. Uniquely, it provides users an opportunity to mix and match repossession, deregistration, and restructuring data from different jurisdictions to tailor for any given fact pattern, allowing that data, together with scores, to be compared in a single view. GARI is unlike anything that has been created before and is freely available to all. We are proud of what we have created, and we thank each contributing firm for their part in making GARI what will continue to be an invaluable tool to the aircraft finance and leasing industry. The following video explores GARI's unique functionality and various uses.
Lessors and financiers can use GARI to help plan their transactions from the outset. Specific fact patterns, including those where the debtor, the state of registration, and habitual base of an aircraft are located in different jurisdictions, can be inputted to generate an assessment of their deal's specific legal landscape. If a lender is providing secured financing to a lessor who has leased aircraft to airlines located in 2 new jurisdictions for the financier, for example Brazil, which I can select here, and Mexico, which I can then add here. By selecting these jurisdictions, GARI can quickly analyse the repossession and deregistration rights, and also generate an overall score for each jurisdiction, details on how the score is broken up, and the deregistration scores. A report in PDF format can then be generated should that be helpful. GARI can also analyse, score and compare each restructuring procedure that might be applicable to such airlines and the lessor, letting the lender know if the procedures are more creditor or debtor friendly.
Creditors can use GARI to understand the risk profile of their aircraft loan or leasing portfolios. This can highlight exposure to particular jurisdictions or illustrate the need to diversify the portfolio. For example, if a creditor holds a portfolio of aircraft with airlines based in, let's say, Ireland, Iceland, Spain and Denmark, that creditor can use the repossession and deregistration scores for each country to assess the portfolio's risk profile. Where there is a difference between each jurisdiction's export score, the user can scroll to the export section of the report to understand more about the rights given to a creditor in each jurisdiction. Data and scores relating to restructuring procedures in those jurisdictions, or others, can be added to form a more complete picture, as shown here.
GARI can be used to help plan a repossession strategy, or otherwise assist in a dispute relating to the financing or leasing of an aircraft. For example, let's say a lessor has leased an aircraft to an airline based in Indonesia. A default situation has occurred under the lease, enabling the lessor to exercise its remedies available under it. In this instance, the lessor wants to terminate the lease and repossess the aircraft currently operating between Indonesia and Malaysia. The lessor can use GARI to compare the repossession data for both jurisdictions and determine which may be better for a repossession. The lessor decides it will try to repossess the aircraft when it is in Malaysia. But of course, the physical act of repossession is only part of the picture. It also wants to know how easy it will be to deregister the aircraft, in this instance, from the Indonesian aircraft register. Within the same view as the repossession data and score for Malaysia, the user can select to display the deregistration data and score for Indonesia in a composite format, thus enabling the lessor to form an initial impression of what rights it has and the risks and obstacles it might face. If the lessor also believes that the airline may become involved in an insolvency procedure, such as filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States, restructuring data and scores for that procedure can be added to the same view.
Being able to compare restructuring procedures across different jurisdictions is useful for both financiers and lessors, as well as airline and lessor debtors. The scores and data showcased in the original GARI have not only been retained, but have now been expanded to include restructuring procedures in 100 jurisdictions. Users of GARI can compare up to 4 different procedures. These can be in the same or across multiple jurisdictions. In this example, we compare an English scheme of arrangement with a US Chapter 11 bankruptcy. GARI provides a creditor and debtor friendliness score for each selected restructuring procedure, with each score being made up of several component scores. Scrolling further down, it also provides an initial high-level comparison of the key features of the selected procedure or procedures, very useful for a debtor considering its options, or a creditor mapping out what its rights might be out of a number of restructuring procedures available to any given debtor. If a deeper dive is needed, users can then look more closely into the constituent parts of these scores, either independently or on a comparative basis. For example, looking at speed and cost, a user can compare on an estimated basis how costly or time-consuming a US Chapter 11 bankruptcy might be compared to an English scheme of arrangement.